It was a typical Monday morning at the bank branch on Rua das Flores. The place was already buzzing early, with dozens of people lined up in queues that seemed endless. Mrs. Helena Augustina de Almeida, 78 years old, had been there since 7:30 a.m., one of the first to arrive. She wore a modest navy blue outfit, carried a worn leather purse, and held a few documents neatly stored in a clear plastic folder.
Slowly, the line grew behind there.
Rushed executives, mothers with small children, retirees like her, and college students all shared the same impatient morning mood of people with busy schedules. At around 8:15, when the branch finally opened its doors, something unexpected happened. A man in a gray suit, in his 40s, simply walked in front of Mrs. Helena as if she were invisible. She tried to politely protest. "Excuse me, young man, but I was here first." He didn't even look back. He continued toward the tellers as if nothing had happened. Then a young woman in high heels did the same, followed by 2 more people. Within minutes, Mrs. Helena went from first in line to almost the very end. The branch manager, Mr. Rodrigo Mendez, a middle-aged man with graying hair and a large belly, watched the whole situation from a distance. He noticed what was happening, but chose not to intervene. After all, he thought, it was early in the day, and he didn't want to start his morning with conflict. He had targets to hit and meetings to attend. Mrs. Helena stayed quiet, just observing. Her blue eyes, still sharp despite her age, picked up on every detail around her. She saw how staff treated clients differently. More attention for the well-dressed, rushed service for those who looked like they had fewer resources. When her turn finally came, nearly 2 hours later, she was attended by a young teller who barely looked up from her computer screen. "Yes. I'd like to make a withdrawal, please. Card and ID." Mrs. Helena handed over her documents and waited patiently as the teller typed, visibly uninterested. The withdrawal was a modest amount, 300 reis for the week's expenses.
"Anything else?" "No, thank you."
"Have a good day." The teller didn't respond. Mrs. Helena carefully put the money into her purse and walked toward the exit. But instead of leaving, she sat down in the waiting area and stayed there, quietly watching the branch's dynamic. Over the next 3 hours, she witnessed dozens of similar situations. Elderly people being ignored, humble clients receiving cold treatment, while well-dressed customers were given extra courtesy. Mr. Rodrigo personally greeted business clients and those clearly moving large amounts of money. Around noon, Mrs. Helena stood up and walked to the manager's desk. He was busy with papers and on the phone. She waited patiently until he finished the call.
"Yes, ma'am."
"How can I help you?" "I'd like to discuss a business matter regarding this bank." "If it's a service complaint, you can call our customer service center. The number's on that sign over there." "It's not a complaint. It's a business proposal." The manager sighed quietly, clearly impatient.
"What kind of proposal?"
"I'm interested in purchasing this branch."
Mr. Rodrigo laughed.
"Ma'am, with all due respect, this branch isn't for sale. And even if it were, it would cost millions."
"How many millions?"
"Excuse me?" I asked, "How many millions?" Thinking she was confused due to her age, he gave her a random number to dismiss the conversation.
"Around 15 million reais."
Mrs. Helena opened her purse and pulled out a gold card the manager didn't recognize. Along with it, she handed over a few documents. "This is my black card from your top competitor. These documents reflect my current financial situation. I believe 15 million is a fair price." The manager took the papers half-heartedly, but as he read, his expression changed completely. The statements showed a checking account with over 50 million reis. Her investments totaled over 200 million. The property list included dozens of commercial and residential buildings, as well as shares in multiple companies. "Ma'am."
This is. My name is Elena Augustina de Almeida."
"Perhaps you've heard of Almeida and Sons Construction." The manager turned pale. Almeida and Sons was one of the largest construction firms in the state, responsible for high-end malls, office buildings, and residential towers. Mrs. Helena's late husband had built an empire in the construction industry, and she had inherited it all after his death 5 years earlier. "You're
Mr. Augusto Almeida is a widow."
"Exactly. And do you know why I came to this specific branch today?" "No, ma'am." Because I received reports that this branch has the lowest customer satisfaction ratings in the entire network. I wanted to see for myself how you treat people. And let me say, you exceeded my negative expectations. The manager was visibly sweating now, despite the air conditioning. Ma'am, if there was any issue with your service today. There was no issue with me, once I revealed who I was. The issue is how you treat people you think aren't financially important. Retirees, elders, ordinary people who've been loyal clients for decades. Mrs. Helena walked over to the teller area, the manager stumbling behind her. "See that lady over there," she said, pointing to an elderly woman being rushed through service. "She's had an account here for 40 years. Never missed a payment. Never caused trouble. And yet look at how she's being treated, rushed, no patience, like a burden. And that gentleman," she continued, pointing to an old man struggling to stand in line. "No one offered him a chair. No one asked if he needed help. But when that businessman walked in 10 minutes ago, he was immediately given priority service."
The manager was in full panic now.
He knew his job was on the line. "What can I do to fix this?" "First, call all staff into a meeting. Right now." Within minutes, 16 employees, tellers, assistants, janitors, security, were gathered in the meeting room. Mrs. Helena stood at the front, still dressed simply but now radiating authority.
"My name is Elena Almeida.
I just purchased this bank branch." Gasps filled the room. "This morning, I observed how you work. I witnessed disrespect, lack of courtesy, and discrimination that are completely unacceptable." She looked directly at the teller who had treated her coldly earlier. Every client who walks through that door deserves the same respect, regardless of what they wear or how much money they have. The retiree who withdraws 300 reis a month is just as important as the millionaire entrepreneur. The room fell completely silent. "Starting now, things will change. First, we will implement a true priority system for the elderly and people with special needs. Not just a separate line, but real, respectful, human-centered service." She walked slowly through the room, locking eyes with each employee. "Second, you'll all undergo intensive customer service and empathy training. Those who won't adapt are free to seek work elsewhere." The manager tried to interject, "Mrs. Almeida, with all due respect, drastic changes like these. Mr. Rodrigo, you're relieved of your duties as of now.
Please gather your things." The tension doubled.
Third, this branch will become a model of social inclusion. We'll offer free financial literacy programs to the community, especially for seniors and low-income individuals. One of the tellers raised her hand timidly. "Yes. Sorry, ma'am, but how do we know this isn't some kind of test or prank?" Mrs. Helena smiled for the first time since she arrived. "Because by the end of today, you'll see the transaction paperwork yourselves. And because, unlike what you're used to here, I treat everyone with the same respect." She turned to the teller who had attended her. What's your name?"
"Carla, Maemme."
"Carla, you served me this morning. How was that interaction?" Carla looked down, embarrassed. "I wasn't very attentive." "Correct. And why do you think you behaved that way?" "I don't know, maybe because I thought you were just another retiree making a withdrawal." "And what's wrong with being just another retiree?" Carla had no answer.
"Let me tell you something, Carla.
My husband started as a construction worker, worked under the sun, earned little, and was treated like he didn't matter. But he had dignity. He had dreams. And he deserved respect." Her voice now carried emotion. "When he died, he left me not just wealth, but a lesson. Never judge someone by appearance or bank account. Treat everyone the way you'd want to be treated." She addressed the entire group. "I didn't buy this branch out of ego or to flaunt power. I bought it because I believe we can turn this into something different. A place where every person feels seen and valued." One young assistant raised his hand. "Ma'am, will we all keep our jobs?" "You will, if you're open to change and committed to treating every client with dignity, from the CEO to the pensioner."
Meresse. Elena walked to the window, watching the busy street outside. "You know what struck me most today?"
"Not just the poor service, but the lack of humanity. You forgot that behind every bank transaction is a story, a life, real needs and real people. She turned back to them. Starting tomorrow, we'll have real changes. Comfortable chairs for elders, trained staff to assist people with disabilities, and enough time per customer without rushing them out. What about productivity targets? Asked one teller. They'll still exist, but we'll also track service quality and customer satisfaction. It means nothing to serve 100 clients a day if half leave unhappy. It was past 2 p.m. now. I'll let you return to work, but reflect on what we discussed. On Friday, we'll meet again to evaluate how you're adapting. As the staff left the room, Carla approached her.
Mrs. Almeida, may I speak with you?
Of course, Carla. I wanted to apologize for how I treated you earlier, and also to say,
I admire what you're doing.
Thank you, but don't admire me. Just treat people well. Can I ask you something? Why didn't you identify yourself right away? You could have avoided all that awkwardness. Mrs. Helena smiled sadly. Because if I had, you would have treated me well because I had money, not because I'm a person who deserves respect. And then I'd never know how you truly treat your clients.
I understand.
And besides, I shouldn't be treated better than any other client just because I have more money. Money doesn't make anyone more important. Carla walked away, visibly emotional. Mrs. Helena stayed a moment longer, watching the street through the window. She thought of her husband, how proud he'd be to see her using his legacy not just to grow wealth, but to change lives. At 3 p.m., she finally left. As she passed the teller area, she noticed something had already changed. The staff seemed more alert, more courteous to everyone. At the door, she met the security guard, a black man in his 50s who'd spent the whole morning unacknowledged. "What's your name?" she asked.
Joao, Maime.
"How long have you worked here?"
12 years.
"And how have you been treated?" Joao hesitated. "You can speak freely." "Well, honestly, I feel invisible sometimes. I do my job, greet people, but no one ever responds. It's like I'm part of the furniture. That's going to change, Joao. You're an essential part of this team. You deserve respect like anyone else." Joao's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, ma'am. In 12 years, no one from management has ever spoken to me like a person." Mrs. Helena left the branch with a heavy yet hopeful heart, saddened by the reality she'd witnessed, but confident that small changes could transform an entire culture. The next day, she returned early. This time, she was recognized and immediately offered VIP service. But she politely declined. "I'd like to wait in the regular line, please." "But ma'am, you're the new owner." "Exactly. And I want to make sure everyone gets dignified service." In the following weeks, she returned regularly. Gradually, the branch transformed. Staff began greeting every customer, offering help to those in need, and showing real patience. 3 months later, the branch went from the lowest rated to the highest in customer satisfaction. More importantly, it became a place where people felt respected, regardless of income or appearance. Mrs. Helena continued banking there, always using the regular line, always watching, reminding everyone that respect isn't a luxury for the wealthy.
It's a right for all.
The story spread through the city, then the entire country. Not as a rumor, but as a real example of how one person can use privilege to spark real, positive change. And Joao, the security guard who had felt invisible for 12 years, became the most beloved employee in the branch. Always greeting clients by name, always ready to help, always treated with the dignity he had always deserved.